ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my channel. This is Tanush, and today I'll be discussing about a different topic other than transit. So this video has got nothing to do with the transit of planets, right? So what I thought was, in our daily life, I'm seeing people who are too much dependent on astrology, who follow day-to-day predictions, everyday predictions, and some plan their day based on the prediction. And also people are too much aware of Rahu Kalam, and on day-to-day basis they see when they have to go out. If it is Rahu Kalam, they don't go out. I mean, it's okay if you are going out on some important work, but on day-to-day basis I find it little surprising and absurd. So on other hand, I find people who completely don't believe in astrology. They say that astrology is just nonsense, and they don't even want to look at it. So I'm going to put forth my thoughts, and tell you guys that what I think and how astrology can become a very useful and very powerful tool if it is used in the proper perspective, right? So one thing to notice that we are all bound by our past karma. We take birth on this planet on a particular day at a particular specified time, when the planetary alignments are in particular position, which basically form some good yogas and some bad yogas. Some of the planets are exalted or in very good spot, and some of the planets are debilitated or in very bad spot. So this is basically all based on our past karma. And the horoscope, the horoscope basically can predict how the pattern of life can be for a person. So a person can have some of the bad yogas like Kal Sarpadosh, we have Pitra Dosh, we have Pap Kartari Dosh. A person can also have very good yogas like Gajakeshari Yoga is there, then Parivartan Yoga is there. We have different kinds of Raj Yoga, etc. Right? So many good and bad yogas, and this is all based on our past karma. So what I would like to discuss is that our life pattern is basically decided, because everything is destined. The amount of money we would be getting during this life period, the kind of work which we'll be doing, everything is kind of destined. But astrology basically can help us on many fronts, which I'll be discussing, to avoid situations which otherwise we are destined to get into, right? So this is also a divine science. It is part of our Shastras. This has been given by Parashar Muni, who is father of Vyasadeva. So we all know Vyasadeva has written all the Vedas. So astrology is extremely powerful, and we need to use it in proper perspective for us to live a simple and a happy life, right? Now, as I told, we cannot change our karma, we cannot change the situations which we'll be getting into in our life, but we can surely take precautions on many of the fronts, so that the situations which we are destined to get into will not impact us, in a major way, or we can basically cut down the impact of that situation. It's like a person who has to go on a road on a rainy day. It's raining heavily, so the person is destined to anyway struggle and go on the road on a rainy day. But if the person knows that it's going to rain, the person can carry an umbrella, right? It basically protects the person from getting wet, but the person has to go through the road, but at the same time is kind of protected. So astrology is kind of that umbrella which protects us to go safe and to go through difficult situations. Now, can we allow astrology to rule our life on day-to-day basis? That's absurd. I mean, at least I don't believe. We cannot always be conscious of planets and movements of the planets. Which planet is in a good spot, which planet is in a bad spot on day-to-day basis. That's absurd, right? Now, some of the people, they basically are aware of it, and they generally tend to look at all the planetary positions on day-to-day basis. But as per me, we can keep track of some of the important transits which happen, like transit of major planets like Saturn, because Saturn changes sign 2.5 years, once in 2.5 years, though it goes retrograde, in between. Jupiter is another important planet which impacts basically most of the major aspects in everyone's life. So, and Jupiter changes sign once in a year. Similarly, Rahu and Ketu are also quite important, and they change sign, once in 18 months. So we can keep track of those changes, and we can have a general kind of prediction or trait, like how the transit of the planet is going to impact us, and based on that we can take certain precautions so that the bad influence may be cut down, right? So now I'll be sharing some of my experiences of how astrology can be extremely beneficial in getting out of situations, or avoiding situations which otherwise we are destined to get into, right? So first aspect I would take is about marriage, because marriage is an extremely important aspect of our life, because marriage basically decides how the person would be living rest of his life. So in astrology, when we do matching of charts of the couple, at least I check, and most of the major astrologers, I'm sure, they check for three important points, other than many other things, right? Those three important points are: one is physical compatibility, mental compatibility, emotional bonding, and any specific doshas like Mangal dosh, etc. So physical compatibility is very important because it tells how the couples relate to each other physically. So how happy they are with each other physically. Now mental compatibility is more important because it tells how the pattern of thinking basically matches with each other. So at least 50 to 60% match should be there, otherwise the marriage will not be a happy or good marriage, I would say. So if they're not able to relate, if their thinking is completely different, if their ambitions are completely different, issues are bound to come in that marriage. And third is emotional bonding. So emotional bonding is also very important because couples should be emotionally attached to each other, and then only the marriage would be successful. So whenever, suppose the wife is going through some pain or some situation, so emotional bonding tells us how soon the husband can understand that the wife is going through a bad situation or she's in trouble, some emotional trauma, or she's into some situation or mentally very disturbed. So similarly, how wife can understand whether husband is happy or husband is going through some difficulties, or some difficult situations. So this emotional bonding aspect of matchmaking basically tells us about that, and it's a very important aspect. Now we also check for some of the doshas like Manglik dosh. So Manglik dosh, when Mangal is very powerful, it makes a person extremely aggressive and also very passionate. So the whole idea behind the Manglik dosha or Manglik thing is, the other partner should also be Manglik, so that the aggression can be basically countered with aggression, so that it gets neutralized, and then they come into a compromising situation. They said that, okay, now let's come to a truce and live peacefully. Otherwise, one person will completely dominate the other person, and the other person will be in anxiety, and the marriage would not last long, right? So we check for some of the doshas. Now the common points which I saw with people who consulted me who had issues in the marriage, like they were not leading a very happy married life, either the wife or husband. They had trust issues, or people who, couples who have gone far away from each other, and they are planning to get divorced, right? So the common thing which I found was their astrological compatibility was not at all there. So all the 3-4 aspects which I have mentioned, they were nowhere there in the picture. So they were lacking, and that basically forms the base for a divorce and issues in the marriage, right? So I'll tell you one example wherein the sister of a very close friend of mine, she had consulted me, 6 to 7 months back for marriage of her daughter. So her daughter is working in US. So she consulted me, and the chart of that girl clearly depicted, two marriages. So there are certain charts which show, two marriage, which means the first marriage would fail, or they would get separated or divorced, and then the person will have to go for a second marriage, and then the settlement probably would be there in the second marriage. And in some charts it shows, clearly divorce would be there. So this was a similar kind of chart. And the Parashara Hora Shastra basically gives us some very wonderful remedies. Like we have remedies like Kumbh Vivaha and Arka Vivaha, a small ceremony which is done before the marriage. It's like, the person is kind of getting married, so it's a ritual, and then the marriage is broken and the second marriage is basically done, right? So it's like religiously they have broken the jinx or the kind of issue which was there, and the second marriage, which is actually the first marriage, would be very happy and peaceful. So I have seen, almost like 75 to 80% of the people who had these issues led a very happy married life after, this ceremony was performed. And if the ceremony wouldn't have been performed, they would have landed up in divorce or in a very bad situation. So astrology can be extremely useful in the marriage compatibility, right? So suppose, let's take a very important aspect again, children, right? So we see many people, they struggle to have children, and the common astrological reasons which we can analyze is because the fifth house is the house of children. So the fifth house is extremely damaged, or the fifth house lord is extremely weak, or in a bad spot, or in conjunction with a malefic planet, or the fifth house is under Pap Kartari Yoga, wherein two very malefic planets are hemming the fifth house, and the benefic aspect of fifth house is not actually manifesting. And in certain cases, there are these malefic planets like Rahu, Ketu, or Saturn, which are strongly influencing the fifth house, and there is no benefit aspect of Jupiter or Venus on the fifth house. So these are the common reasons wherein the children basically are delayed. I mean, the birth of a child is basically delayed. So with astrological remedies, we can try to surely try to cut down the negative effects of the malefic planets, or we can do some rituals so that the fifth house becomes strong. We can strengthen the fifth house lord, and the couples can then have children. So I'll again give an example. So this happened in 2020. So a doctor couple, they consulted me because they were trying for a child from past 6 years, and it was not working out. So when I examined the lady's chart, it was a Scorpio ascendant chart, and Jupiter is the lord of second and fifth house. And coincidentally, the lady was running a Jupiter Mahadasha, or the Jupiter main period of 16 years. Now, Jupiter was in the second house. Second house also represents birth of a child. And when Jupiter is in the second house in its own sign, obviously both the signs will be active, right? The second house and the fifth house automatically become active. So we performed a small ritual, a small puja to strengthen the fifth house, and within 2 months the lady got pregnant, and just a month back she had given birth to a baby girl, and they are very happy now. So sometimes, or most of the times, simple remedies will surely work out, unless the fifth house is very badly damaged and nothing can be done. So in some of the cases, due to our past karma, people are kind of bereft of some of the aspects, important aspects of life, like children, or having property, or progressing in career. Now if you look at some other aspects, like some people have certain yogas or doshas like Kal Sarpa dosh, Pitra dosh, Pap Kartari dosh, many different doshas, or some of the important planets will be debilitated. So what happens is they are forced to live a very tough life. So they struggle so much in their life, but they'll not progress as much. They should have progressed based on the hard work which they have put in, or life is extremely tough, and they get depressed. So now astrology provides remedies for all the major doshas, and in my personal consultation I have seen, so this is also a recent example. I have seen a family, they were struggling so much, so badly, they were doing everything to come up in life, and it was not working out. So the girl basically had this Kal Sarpa yoga. So we had the remedy done at Trayambakeshwar. So they traveled there, they did the remedy and came back, and within a month, their life became much better. Most of the major issues which they were facing, they were kind of solved, and now they are quite happy. So I can give you a number of examples, on this front. Now, next important aspect of life is career, right? So some people, they suffer in career. So there are again, different reasons, like the 10th house lord or the 11th house lord may be debilitated or in conjunction with a very bad planet or in a weak position. 10th house or the 11th house is under Pap Kartari yoga, or Rahu or Ketu are sitting in the 10th house in a debilitated position or in a very uncomfortable signs. So all this makes the career of a person extremely tough. In many cases, the person will be quite confused, whether the career in which I am right now or the job in which I am is the right job. So they keep on changing the fields, or they keep on changing the job, anticipating a good career or a happy working condition in the next job. And this kind of is a pattern. They keep on searching, but they are never satisfied in any job, in any company. So again, simple remedies can surely help them, at least to give them proper direction to settle down in a job. It will surely help, right? So I'll give an example of one of my very close friends. He's working in a very big company. I will not like to name that. So he's an IT, basically working from past 17-18 years, and from 6-7 years that guy is struggling to get promoted to a managerial role, and all his colleagues have already they became managers and they are in very good position, and this guy was struggling on that front, even though he was working very hard and doing everything, but he never got promoted. So he consulted me. I saw his chart and I saw that so he was a Gemini ascendant. So his 10th house lord Jupiter was in a very good spot, so it was in the 9th house. And his 11th house lord Mars was debilitated in the 2nd house, and so he was working very good, he was satisfied with the work, but the gains, so 11th house represents gains from the career, so the gains he was not getting from the career, right? So to fix this, I just gave him a simple, a very small mantra to chant daily. So it hardly takes 2 to 3 minutes. So that guy started doing it, and within 2 months he got promoted to a managerial position, and right now is very happy. Things are much better. So small things can basically pull us out of the situation. Now I'll also give an example where people go through difficult dashas. Like I know a couple, they are in their 50s, and from past 16 years they are struggling so much. They have lost all their money, job is not stable, the person is very much apprehensive of the future of the children, and the wife and husband, they have fights with each other, they are blaming each other for the failure in the life, and they consulted me. I saw that, I saw the chart, and the guy is on the verge of completing his Rahu Mahadasha. So Rahu is very badly placed, and he's just on the verge of completing the Rahu Mahadasha. And the next Jupiter Mahadasha of 16 years is going to be an excellent dasha for that guy. So Jupiter is in a very good spot in its own sign of Sagittarius, in the ninth house. So it's going to be excellent. So I told them, what had happened in the past, and then I told how the future is going to be. So this gave them so much of hope that they are now very peaceful. They are facing all the difficulties with with confidence and joy that the coming time is going to be very good for them. So it has given them a lot of hope and confidence, right? So astrology can be very useful. At the same time, I'll give you another example of a person who just retired from a public sector company. He was in an extremely powerful position, and he was enjoying a lot. He was very strong in his office, and he was kind of head for a particular region. He just retired, and he was planning to invest all his money in some business, and then for some reason he consulted me, and this person was about to complete his wonderful Mercury Mahadasha. So Mercury Mahadasha of 16 years. So Mercury Mahadasha is excellent. I mean, especially when Mercury is well placed, it gives a lot of happiness, a lot of power very easily, right? Jupiter at least expects a person to do some work, but Mercury gives all these things very easily. So he enjoyed all those things. He's about to complete the Mercury Mahadasha and enter into Ketu Mahadasha, where he'll be struggling a lot for the next 7 years, right? So I looked at his chart. I told him that don't invest, because exactly 1 year from now you'll be getting into a very bad dasha, and if you invest the money, then you'll land in trouble. You'll probably lose all your money, or your money will be blocked. And that guy agreed to that. So this is how astrologically can help us, can give us a lot of hope when we are in very bad situation. At the same time, it can actually kind of help us to foresee the difficulties which we would be facing in the future, so that we can get ready for that. So guys, these were my thoughts on astrology, how not to be bound by astrology on day-to-day basis. At the same time, how we can use astrology as a very powerful tool to lead a happy life. So these are my thoughts. If someone is not agreeing with it, it's perfectly fine. I'm perfectly fine with it, because these are my thoughts. So if you like my video, please subscribe to my channel. I'll be back with another interesting video. Thank you so much.